Today we have Jens Emil Holm from Denmark, our new trumpet player in Latvia now. Great to see you, man.
Great to see you.
And give us a short background. What has happened to you till this point?
To this point. Well, I'm from Denmark. I'm a trumpet player. I've studied in the academy in Aarhus, and then I had Erasmus here in Barcelona, and then I took my master's degree in Copenhagen. And then after that, I was lucky enough to win an audition here in your wonderful country, and now I work in Sinfonietta Riga.
Awesome. And now your kind of field or area that you're really interested in is the psychology part, right? All the weird stuff that happens in the background or in our mind, when it gets silent when you sit on the stage and that spot's coming, and you're counting 100 bars, 101.
Exactly.
And then that moment, and you're like,
and you missed it, and you just continue
the
next day.
Nothing happened. Nobody died.
Yeah.
I mean, a part of you maybe, but everything's fine. You get over it.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that.
Well, it's a long passion for me actually to try to discover all these psychological layers that we have and the mental attitude and preparation. And it started out in my early academy years just from myself being nervous and being frustrated about practicing a lot in the practice room, making good progression and making my teacher satisfied during the lessons with how I played, and then never managing to deliver when the spot came in a concert or in a class or audition.
Yeah.
And then slowly I began to think more and more about it, how this could be, and at one point I was just so angry that I didn't manage to perform well that I decided now I have to change it. And this was sort of an eye-opener for me, the moment when I decided to become really good at playing under stress or while feeling nervous. I started to forget about trying to feel good and not being nervous, and instead finding my own way in how could I play anyway if my knee was shaking or I was drying my mouth or what other symptoms I had. And this was a very important step for me to take.
So remember, you're gonna be nervous.
You are gonna be nervous.
You're gonna be nervous. So kind of, this is gonna be about just deal with it, and how you can deal with it. And it seems something maybe very overwhelming at times, but there are steps and things you can put into motion that can help you reduce that. Or, first thing is you have to know that you have a problem,
Exactly.
and then you have to admit that. It's like
well, it's
alcoholics.
Exactly. But it's a factor that every musician, I believe, should work on. Just I started to treat my nervousness just as an extra factor to my trumpet playing. So every day I was working on my high range. Every day I was working on finger techniques. Every day I was working on scales, flexibility, so on. Every instrument has their own things they work on, and then I would work on how to play while being nervous. And as you start doing that every day, as you start to get a routine of how to get through it anyway. Then you also start to relax a little bit more, and I can say now, at the point where I am today, I get equally nervous to my first day in academy. The only difference is now I know it's coming. I'm completely aware of it. I know how to handle it the best way, and some periods when I'm really feeling well in terms of all this mental preparation, then I almost enjoy being nervous. I kind of look for it because it also gives you something. It gives you some energy and some action. But of course, if you stand in the middle with no clue of how to deal with it, then it's frustrating and hard and rough.
And something you said actually is that there's a book. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's also related to all of these things. I started it, but I haven't finished it yet, like a lot of things.
So you only got to feel your fear.
Yeah, I'm just feeling it. It's there. It's there.
Yeah.
And I remember, when I was starting out playing a kid still in music school, I would get so nervous. My mouth would get dry, and I don't know if people could see it, but my legs were like going like this. And then later, but I know where that came from though. It came from me not, having kind of practiced enough for it. So I was nervous because I didn't know what I was just doing. And as soon as I started, really practicing and everything, that kind of went away, and I didn't even notice it. It just went away from that. So, and yeah, it's a lot to do with, your technique and the abilities, but of course that's kind of you have to have that. I guess that's the first thing, because you can't just focus on, oh, I'm going to be fine, just tell yourself I'm going to be fine and not, do your daily routines or whatever you do.
Exactly. You need to have the fundament or the base. And this to face the fear is very important. There's if you take from a completely different area, there's this businessman, this finance man, Ray Dalio in America, who made he founded Bridgewater, this investing company, which did quite well also in the financial crisis and everything. And one of his main principles is that you have to be radically open-minded to all problems and solutions, and it's very easy to forget that. Either if you make it very well in business and you become confident that you're the best,
think
exactly, then you get, or if you're on the lower side, you haven't made it yet, then you're not radically open-minded to what you have to go through. And I felt it the hard way in the first year of academy, because I was just observing other people going up there, delivering, playing very well, and I thought I want to be the same. So I thought it was something about forgetting about being nervous and just doing it, and not thinking and copying them. Right. So I tried all kind of things. We had every Tuesday class at 2:00, and it was always from Monday night it was always starting to sweat, and when Tuesday noon came, 2 hours before, I would try to be cool, right? I would sit in the canteen. I would
try 50, grams of one shot, then the next week, okay, it didn't help, 2 shots. All
exactly,
right.
And then everything was fine, and that's a life lesson. No, I would, I would not go down to warm up. I would not really be prepared to the moment I was facing, because I kind of wanted to forget it. I was like, I'll be fine, I've practiced, and I would sit and be cool in the canteen, make jokes, all my friends would be laughing, and I thought, I'm on the top of the world, I can do this. And it really worked well until 13:59, when I had to walk down the stairs into the big hall where the pianist was sitting waiting, and all the other trumpet students, and our teacher, a wonderful teacher we had there, Christian, waiting to hear what I was about to play, and then suddenly, the situation would just hit me in the face, because that was the reality there. I had to walk up to the pianist and play the piece, and because I came from a cozy mode in the canteen, I was not at all ready to handle that situation, and then it hits you as panic, and that's the thing we don't want. We don't want panic. It's okay to be nervous, it's okay to be stressed, it's okay to have all the symptoms. But if we panic, that's where everything goes down, and we.
You need to know what to do in a fire drill. That's why we have,
exactly.
People come and tell you, okay, so you have these and these exits in the building. This is how you use a fire extinguisher, and so that at least something. Otherwise, when smoke is everywhere and you don't even know that you should lay low, and it's like
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I always compare it also when I now have clients, I compare it to soldiers. I was not in the military, I'm not like that into the army, but I am inspired by the preparation they have. If you see soldiers in war, and if they're dropped into a enemy area, they know exactly what to do. They don't just jump out. Exactly.
Run.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoot in all directions.
Exactly. No, but then, they are a team, they have planned everything, they have rehearsed it a million times, they don't just jump out of the helicopter in a parachute, land on the ground, and then hopefully everything will go fine, and we're not going to be nervous.
Hopefully the enemy's not near us.
Exactly. No, they do all the preparation, and most of all, they not only they know, but they train it. And there's a difference. There's a difference between training something or just knowing it. You know. So the moment when you start to get the exercises and the knowledge about what to and how to handle your nervousness, you need to not only practice it but train it. So it just becomes a part of your
DNA.
Yeah, your mental setup, your body. You know, it's very important.
And also the analogy about how I was talking to a chiropractor, one of the Olympic medalists. He now does that, and he works with a lot of like number one athletes, and he says how they can't sleep at night because they're worried that I'm gonna get my leg numb or something, and so that's gonna impact my tomorrow's run or something like that. And for us, we never think about how I'm sleeping, like what's my leg doing or anything. Maybe I'm thinking, oh my goodness, my chops dry. What's going on? What's going on? You know, or one of these things. But it's never about legs. You know, it's
exactly.
but
brain focuses on
yep. And
those things.
Like you said before, we were talking how they've had psychology in sports for a long time already, but in music it's kind of just now, I think, emerging finally. So yeah, that's very, thank God.
Yeah.
It was about time. Jeez. Yeah. Anything practical for like daily use? What could you recommend for people? I mean, we discussed that, you're going to be nervous. So, okay, accepting the fact, but is there something small that you can just give away now?
Well, the biggest thing for me is to be aware of which mindset you need to be in when you are practicing and when you are playing a concert or an audition. I call them, we have a lot of different mindsets that we use in life, but those two main mindsets that we need to involve here is the learning mindset, where you are open to learning new stuff, you're analyzing, you're taking in new inputs. That's extremely good when you are in a lesson with a teacher. You have to be open, you have to try it out and see does it work and stuff. But then you also have to be in the attacking or execution mindset, for when you do auditions and stuff like this. And way too often, myself included, we tend to be 99% of the time in the learning mindset and only 1% in the execution mindset, and that's in the actual audition. And then it's no wonder that we don't succeed to the level we want.
We think that repeating something, 1,000 times, a phrase that's gonna be it, but it's just a part of it. You could actually play it maybe 500 or even 10 times, but you have to be mentally ready to play it on the spot, not at your home in a comfortable situation.
Exactly. It's like you can practice a billion times in Arctis, in the very north, to walk with an ice cream for 10 miles, right? But if you then suddenly one day have to do it near to equator, you're not going to succeed to the same level as you would do in the Arctis. I just thought about that. I don't know if it's stupid, but it's just to give the idea that the situation is so much different when we are in a situation with stress. So the first thing is to really accept that, and then you have to start to really practice switching to your attacking mode. And this is the main key, is to how do you make the switch over to the attacking mode? Well, first of all, you have to have a routine that sets you up for the attacking mode, and then you have to practice that routine a lot of times to get from your learning mode very fast into your attacking mode, so that no matter what happens in the audition, you have a set of mental routines that put you into this routine. And it's actually possible. I've done it with so many students and clients now, and I've done it myself. And it also, science shows us that it's a physical thing that we do, because fairly recently we have discovered this, that the way we learn things is through neurons in the brain that make circuits. So every time you make an action, the neurons in this circuit will be
records it.
And activated. And the more we repeat an action, the more these connections get wired. It's something called...
It's kind of bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually something called myelin that goes around these circuits and makes it, popular speaking, sort of like a highway for these neurons. And we can transfer information faster. And then it's also known now that neurons that fire together wire together. That means, a lot of different circuits. If we do it at the same time, all these circuits will be wired together. That's why we can, for trumpet players, change the lip position at the same time as we do something with our fingers while reading the score, and and these gets wired together. And this is very clear to many people when talking just about your instrument or how to, and this is what we do in the learning mode. We repeat good actions many times, we get the right things wired, so we get really good at doing what we do, whatever instrument we play.
But it can also be a bad action that we're recording.
That's of course.
Like we're going the wrong way on the highway, for example, as well.
Yeah.
But we can turn again back. So it's not like a problem if you've learned a piece in one way. It doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter. It does matter that you've learned it the wrong way. Yeah. So you have to now do it, a different way. But it's of course that it's a nasty transition. I mean, because you have to go from this old strong habit to a new one. But it's possible.
It is possible. Yeah.
I think that should kind of maybe
But the interesting thing in all this is also then that these circuits that wire together we can also use mentally in terms of setting yourself up for an attacking mode, meaning that if we have the same routine every time when we're about to perform or attack, a piece, then we actually can make the same circuits work in the brain in order for the brain to go into the attacking mode that we have practiced, no matter of the situation and no matter how you feel. And it's very simple. You know how sometimes a smell or a sight or something can bring you back to childhood. You smell a special flower that you were in the garden at home or whatever it is.
Gasoline
exactly
from my dad's old car. Oh yeah.
Exactly. And suddenly, whoa, you're back in this situation. And it's basically the same thing we can use when preparing for auditions. If we many times practice our little routine, taking us to the performance or attacking mode, then by repeating this routine in the situation, we will get there with the right thoughts, with the right mindset. And this is extremely important. So just to sum up, you ask about what can you do like for these things. It's basically making this transition, and I advise my students always, and I also do it myself. I very often divide my practice room into two. I have one area where I usually sit. I'm in the learning mode. I practice. I analyze. I listen to what I've been playing. I try to optimize. Make it better, and I use information that my teachers have been giving me and books and so on. But that at some point I move to the other side of the room. Usually I stand up and I do my little mental routine. I use from a guy called Don Green, a sports psychologist. Exactly, you have his book there prepared and everything.
I have this book. I've had it for years now, and
recommendable.
I'm finally, trying to read it.
It's a good book, and he writes. He's made a system called centering exercises. It's 7 mental steps that you do. It takes, can take from 3 minutes to do till you can do it in 10 seconds. Oh, wow. And it's extremely efficient, because if you have repeated this a lot of times, right before you have to play a piece or right before executing, then you will get into the right mindset of executing. And you can repeat this process in auditions, in auditions where you do excerpts. I always did it, between each excerpt. I did one centering exercise just to reset my mind.
So you're quick at it, because otherwise
I'm quick at it.
You don't have 3 minutes. Otherwise, it's like 3 minute gap in between, like,
exactly. No,
whenever you're ready, mister.
No, that would be too much. But the 3 minutes are important in order to learn how to do it.
Of course.
And you can do 3 minutes in the morning of these exercises just as also like a meditation, because then you do something while waiting for playing. It's always better if you do something rather than just wait. Yeah. Because when we do something, we also execute. Because when we just wait, we get passive. And what we don't want while being nervous is passiveness, because then the thought starts to take control, and it might not be good thoughts.
So wait. But what can I do on stage? in orchestra while I'm waiting for those 100 bars.
You can do the centering exercises. I do them on stage.
Okay, yeah, I know. I was thinking like it's better. You were saying to do something.
Yeah, but even exactly. But do something you can also do with your mind.
Okay.
Or most of us can.
Oh man, there's no hope for me.
Yeah. No. But yeah, so you actually can repeat these steps right before you have to play, in order to control your thought patterns and because if our mind just wanders around, we tend to be over analytical. We start to sense how is our lips feeling, or how is the fingers if it's violin, or like we all have our issues, as you talked about with the legs or So but by doing this exercise, you actually get to focus on what you want to, and it's extremely powerful. But it doesn't come just by knowing it. Again, as we talked about in the beginning, you have to really train it. So when I have, usually with clients, we have 3 months before auditions or concert or whatever it is. And we really train this transition from the learning mode to the performance mode. And it's not one time a day, it's like 25 or 30 times a day. We go from this learning mode to the performance mode. And it doesn't always have to be a whole program or a whole piece. It can also just be 8 bars, but you are here in the learning mode. You work on it, you practice it, you analyze, you think, how can I make the sound more beautiful? How can I make it sound more smooth? How can I make it strictly in tempo, whatever? And then you go over to the other spot in the room and you repeat your routine to make this transition into the execution or performance mode. I use centering exercises by Don Green. For me, that was something that worked very well. Basically, you can choose what you want. The most important thing is that your routine is quite the same always. It has to be something that your brain remembers and wires to.
The 7 essential skills for optimal performance.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, very briefly, the steps are that you form a clear intention. It could be that I want to do the best version of this solo piece or this excerpt or what it is. Then step number 2 is you pick a focal point in front of your eyes. It has to be quite far from you, or at least, you should look towards it somewhere. It could be the music stand also if you're playing by a score. And should be a little below eye level, because that's also proven that if you look up, it means that you're searching. You're not in the execution mode. And you always see it. Funny enough, with people who are uncertain, or if people play by heart and can't remember, they start to wander upwards with their eyes. Yeah. So really practice this again. Train it in that your focus is a little below eye level, not looking down straight ahead, but slightly below eye level. Step number 3 is that you take air in through the nose, and while you take in that air, you kind of scan your body for tension. Exactly. And if you do a long centering, you can do it if you do it for 3 minutes, you can do it very slowly. You can start with your left foot and move up in the leg and so on. And if you do it in 10 seconds right before an excerpt, for instance, then you do just your whole body, you scan for tension. And then step number 4 is that you let go of all that tension, and you have to imagine that the tension leaves the body sort of in a gray or black cloud, that you visually see all the tension leaving the body. And here it's not so important that you're completely relaxed after. Don't worry if you still have some tension. It's more,
you do need to stand up.
Exactly. And it's not about being completely relaxed and having no tension.
Extra tension.
Extra tension, yeah. And it's also about the focus, that you actually, again, do something. You focus on changing your thoughts on something that you do, rather than just wandering, having your thoughts go wandering around. So when you've let go of all that tension, you go to step number 5, and exactly, and that is finding your center. And your center is very physical. It's like 5 centimeters, something like this, below the navel. It's where you're completely in balance in your body, and from this point, you should feel the energy go down through your legs into your ground, into the ground. I always add a little sort of Alexander technique thought to this, that you're really grounded in through your feet into the earth. You feel the floor and so on. And then also how the energy goes up through your spine and continues up through your head, and also to the sides, how it gives you space and balance around this point. And physically speaking, it's just very important in a stress situation that you have a step where you focus on this balance, because often you see that we get a little to one side or out of balance physically when we're under stress. So having a step that you have practiced to do every time that focuses on this getting back into center, allows you to do it without almost thinking, or as a routine, so you're sure whenever you have to play, you are in this center. If you stand up doing this, you can make small circles to kind of also feel the center and find where am I completely centered. And when you sit, it's easier to be in balance.
Yeah,
but you can
if I do this, I can find all the spots where this squeaky chair.
Yeah, that's also nice, and you know what to. Then when you have found your center, this is the kind of the physical part of it, letting go of tension and finding your center. Then you go to step number 6. And in my opinion, that's the most important step. This is where you repeat your process cues. And it's all the cues that you have found over here in your learning mode area, all the things that you found out through practice and repeating and analyzing. That work the best, So when you come over here to step number 6, you don't do anything physically with the instrument, but you repeat them mentally. It could be for a trumpet player, something with keeping the airflow steady, or for a violin to keep the bow moving, or whatever different instrument group has as issues. It could be for pianists to have the fingers running smoothly and feeling the keyboard sort of. And the most important thing is that it's the main thing that made it work from over here, and you should put the words on it, not your teacher, not someone else. It should be what works the best, and that you should repeat. And you're also allowed to imagine how it feels. Not only know the words, but how does it feel when the air is moving? How does it feel when the bow is moving? So you imagine the sweet spot where everything just works, where you're connected through your body into your instrument. So you repeat that without playing. Step number 7 is that you take all this that you've built up, all this energy, and direct it towards your focal point. You open your eyes and direct the energy. And this is also great feeling when you have practiced this routine, because you kind of feel that all the energy goes to this point. And it also gives you a little bit this tunnel vision, where you're not focused on everything that happens in the room and what's up there and who sits there. But it's just me, this tunnel of energy, and then my goal, sort of.
Like for the horses when they're on the track, they have the blinds on,
Exactly.
do the lap, and you do your excerpt or whatever.
Exactly. And of course this is very much for auditions, then people would argue that in orchestra you can't be like this all the time, and that's true. You need to be open and listen, but that's different. And in orchestra I actually also experiment a lot with changing a little bit. So that means if I play in chords or with a lot of other people in specific areas, I really try to listen and be aware, especially also if I'm second trumpet, to really listen and be open and flexible. But then if I have a hard spot coming up, a solo or something, I try to use this tunnel vision a little more to be sure that I execute, that I'm not open to too many changes right in that moment. And that is very important. And as I said before, the transition from learning mode to attacking mode or performance mode is crucial, and you need to train that in addition, practice 25 times a day. For me, I think it's extremely important. It doesn't have to take long time, right? If this centering exercises can vary from 3 minutes, but also till 10 seconds, So it's important to do it. It's every time you want to be in performance mode, do the centering, so that the brain wires this, that is linked together with executing is these steps, or some other steps if you choose differently not to use those. But it has to be consistent and the same.
Man, all of this, and you were saying you do it in 10 seconds?
Well, it's very easy, sort of, if you say, like, imagine that you're playing an excerpt, right? You establish clear intention, I'm going to play the best version of this excerpt. If you're behind the screen, you can close your eyes, otherwise you just keep it open, it doesn't matter. You take breath in through your nose, scan for tension, and let go of all that tension while breathing out. While you breathe out, you just make a small circle to find your center, and then you repeat your process cues. It could be establish tempo, how does it feel, how does it sound, open your eyes, direct your energy, pick up the instrument slowly. That's also important to practice. How do you pick up the instruments? Because a lot of people, under stress, they grab the instrument and they do all these kind of movements very fast and irrational. And of course, if we're not used to it, we react this way. But so with my clients, it's always a big part of it is to train to do things controlled and slowly. So you can do this centering exercises like that, when you combine while you blow out, you sort of find your center and you repeat just 3 process cues for each excerpt. It can go quite fast, 10, 15 seconds. And sometimes I have clients who say like, oh, but it feels so long time, and I'm timing them and they do 8 seconds. I say, oh, but I can't wait so much between my excerpts. But yeah, you can. Easily. First of all, if you've come all the way to an audition and done, went through the trouble of preparing and doing all these things, paid for the travels, paid for the hotel, whatever, the orchestra and the jury owes to you that you take at least 15 seconds between excerpts. Second of all, the jury is much more relaxed than we think. They listen to, I don't know how many candidates through a day, and they have their coffee and, they are also clearing their heads in between excerpts, so they don't sit and wait like that, they open their ears when they have to listen, and otherwise they just, sit and wait, so 15 seconds is not a lot.
Exactly. No, that's a normal amount. I mean, gives you enough time to refocus, from fast-paced, excerpt to something slower, and
But by doing this, you have 15 or 20 seconds of doing a lot, of actually doing something. So that means you stay in this execution mode rather than finishing one excerpt and just
freaking out about the next one for 20 seconds.
Exactly. And it's so easy to do if we don't have something to replace it with.
So you also have an online presence. You have a website. What is it?
It's jensemilholm.com.
Awesome. I'm going to link that below. And what do you do there exactly? You have some articles?
Yeah, it's articles and blog posts. It's started just as a place where I kind of wanted to collect my thoughts, every time I
because with age,
exactly.
you forget things, so at least you have something to remember.
Exactly. It started out with me, this whole coaching thing started up gradually for me. Even in my academy years and the later academy years, I started to, coach some of my fellow students, and it's hard to define when was it the line between just talking to friends and then became coaching, but at some point it kind of switched to actual coaching towards the end of my academy years. And then I wrote a master thesis in the academy in Copenhagen about these things, psychological things. And, then I started to get clients gradually just mouth by mouth. And every time I would have a client, I would write them an email afterwards, sort of summing up all the things that we had been working on. And I thought it would be cool to make real articles and put it out for everybody to read. So that's how it started.
Nice.
So it's a webpage where you can go in, you can read about all these things. You can contact me if you're interested in a session one day or something. And so both like a visit card for me and.
And how does it work? So if I go to your website, I contact you, what's the next step afterwards?
Well, you write me an email there, and I'll get back to you. Usually we meet either in person or through Skype. We talk for 20 minutes, half an hour, just like an introduction, and completely for free.
So if you're in Australia, it's going to be very expensive for you because he's going to be flying all the way down there.
Exactly.
Okay.
No. Here, when I'm here in Riga, I meet with some of the students, but otherwise I have a lot of clients also through Skype or FaceTime, and it has its benefits as well because we often schedule sessions 1 hour before the actual audition, where the minds are going crazy, right? Then we actually have a chance to talk through the plan and all the preparation that we have prepared. So that's also very powerful.
It's a virtual kind of a hand-holding experience.
Exactly. But so anyway, the first 20 minutes is completely for free. It's also for the clients to see is it something for them. We talk through their situation. and talk about what could I possibly help with. Usually I say that the most important thing for me is to be observing the situation a little from the outside, because often when you're preparing for audition you are under a lot of stress, and it's hard to actually make the right decisions, and it's hard to know how much to do, when to stop, how much to be in performance mode, how much to be in learning mode, because you never feel you're ready, kind of. And there it can be good to have someone like me from the outside who's not in the stress situation, who can observe and help you make the right decision. Right. So we talk for 20 minutes completely for free, and then if people sort of like it and feel that it's a good match, then people can book sessions. Right.
And I feel like it's something similar to when you have to have a conversation with somebody, maybe something very kind of, I don't know, painful for you or them or something, and then you have this conversation in your mind and you have it all laid out, but when you meet the person, you're like, this just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like kind of say maybe 10% of it, so it's almost, you go on stage and you do your 10% instead of at least 80, 90, or maybe even 100.
Yeah. Of course, and it's very much about a good match, from clients and coaches, because you have to feel comfortable, even if it's I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. It's still some personal things, especially because with music it's such a big part of our DNA. It means such a lot to most people, so it can be demanding to talk about these things, and
to open up,
and I always say the first thing is that it's strictly confidential. Of course, nothing what I talk about goes to anyone else.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Check this channel later for some
insights. Exactly. Yeah. No, it's of course strictly confidential. So it's very important that the students or clients feel safe and with whatever we talk about and do.
Great, man. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks. And I hope that was something you're interested in, and I'll link everything below, and also the books. I have a few books that I've bought over the years that I have not read yet. Some I have. Maybe you can also have some recommendations or something. I
Absolutely.
put that, and all the best to y'all. Bye.
Bye.
You have a website? What's the name of it?
Well, it's Jens Emil Holm, myname.com.
Yeah, and so through there...
Not Jens Emil Holm. Okay, I will do it again.
Camera, sound,
on.
action! Now! Okay.